Hey guys, how's it going? So today I wanted to bring you another future-based tutorial. This time we're going to do it on my track that recently came out, Time Flies. We're just going to go through each and every one of these sections, the drums, the effects, super stuff, you know the deal. So I'll just play the track for you and we'll get right to it. So the first section, like always, that I want to have a look at is the drum and sub section. Soloed out alone, it sounds like this. Alright, so let's get right into it. The kick, let's start with that. So all I have on it is this EQ, and all it is just rolling off the very low end, because I mean, personally I don't hear a difference very much when I have my headphones or my speakers on, and cut out some of this very low end. So I mean, it's just unnecessary frequencies. And then I also have just a dip in the mids, and all this sample is just a basic 808 kick that I shortened the tail end of, and I mean, I've processed it before, and yeah, so soloed it sounds like this. Nothing fancy. The next part is the sub bass, and I have two here because one is a 12 semitone drop sub thing, and then the other one is just my regular sub that plays throughout the track, and alone sounds like this. Yeah, so nothing crazy. Again, just a side chain to my kick, and then this EQ cutting off a lot of the high end, and then also again cutting off that low end unneeded frequencies. And the patch on both of them is just a sine wave that pitched down 24 semitones. The only difference being that this one in the oscillators tab has pitched down 12 more semitones. So when you go into the envelope, or into the MIDI clip envelope tab, go to pitch bend here, and just draw it in, and that's how you get that pitch fall effect. Another thing to note is that, again, if you see my other tutorials, you know I like to delay the sub bass a little bit so it doesn't interfere with the kick, and you can really get that punch from the kick, not just relying on sidechain for that. And yeah, you can have a look here at the MIDI notes that I used for it. F sharp, you can look at that if you want. But anyways, the next section is just my snare, and it's just two samples really. The other one's just reversed. Sounds like this. Yeah, nothing crazy. So the first sample is just this, and it has a EQ on it that cuts off the low end again, and it alone it sounds like this. It's the main snare used in it, yeah. So the next sample that I just layered it with sounds like this, and it also just has the EQ cutting off the low end. And I just added that in there just because it was really punchy and I thought it would sound nice as a layer. So yeah. And then I just copied that layer and reversed it, and on every other snare hit I just have this sample. yeah, nothing crazy at all. So the next sound we'll have a look at is this like super basic trap cymbal crash thing that is in just about any sample pack you go to, and it sounds like this. Yeah, and so all I have on it is my two compressors, one to the kick, one to the snare, and then an EQ cutting off a lot of the low and even some of the mid frequencies. And I have it cut short right here because I have a few filler things and I didn't want a whole lot of high end to interfere with that, even though I have the super saw reverb in it, but we'll get to that in a minute. The next sound is just this weird little hi-hat that just added a nice little filler element. Yeah, it's nothing insane again, and I just cut off the low end. And the important thing I feel we should note is that you notice that I have a lot of different cymbal layers, and that's true for any genre of music. You want to have lots of cymbals to just kind of fill up the empty space. If you listen to rock music, there's not just a kick and a snare or toms or anything like that. They have a bunch of different elements. They have a bunch of different cymbals being hit just to fill up the noise. And I mean, if you're having trouble in your track making it sound fuller, honestly just add cymbals. It adds a lot more than you think. And the last thing, sorry, getting off on a tangent. The last thing I have here is just my hi-hat, and again, EQ, sidechain to kick and snare, and it just sounds like this. Yeah, so that's really all there is to my drum section. Alright guys, so the next section I'll show you is just the super saw, and soloed sounds like this. Yep, so let's just get started with the track as a whole, or the group as a whole. All I have on it is a compressor, making sure everything's even. Yeah, no, nothing crazy there. Then I also have my two side chains, one to the kick, one to the snare. I also have this gate that at the beginning you can hear. It gives kind of this stuttering effect, which sounds like this. Yeah, and that's what that does. The auto filter is used later in the track. This isn't the full version, but it is. Anyways, then I also have this EQ cutting off the low end, dipping a little where the snare is mostly at in the frequency spectrum, and then also a bit of a dip in the high end. Then also I have a few different things going on here in the mixer. I have the volume automation to give it kind of that pulsing, future bassy sound, which is what that is, and that's why everything sounds pretty even when it does that. Then I also track band, so at the beginning, not only is it being kind of stuttered, but the super saw is moving from right to left. And then lastly, I have it running into this reverb return channel. And the reason I did that is because I didn't want my super saw to lose any strength just throwing a reverb on the actual group, so I ran it into this return channel, and all it is I turned the dry wet up 100%, added the decay time to 5.21 seconds, and then low cut it. So yeah, that's all that is. So next I'll have a look at the serum, get out of here, the serum patch here. It'll take a sec to unfreeze and flatten. All this is a serum with a saturator, the drive boosted up a little bit, and an EQ, cutting off the low end, also dipping where the snare is, boosting the mids, and boosting the highs a little. And alone it sounds like this. Yeah, and the patch is just 2 saw waves, 11 unison and 9 unison, and this one is pitched up an octave. And then I also just added a longer attack on the patch, just for, side chaining. I just didn't want to deal with it, so I made the beginning of each super saw hit delayed a little bit. And then in the effects section, a compressor, multi-band, and then I boosted the gain. And that's literally it. We can look at the chords as well, because I also have a pitch drop thing in here. Again, to do that, you just go into your serum and pitch it down 12 semitones. I have it at the end of the second chord and at the beginning of the third. And the chords themselves are just these. You can have I'll show you both. Not the best in music theory again, so I couldn't tell you what these chords actually are, but yeah, that's what those are. And then this one, C sharp, A sharp, this is G sharp, and then another C, but I added a D and an F over. So yeah, that's what that all is. I'm gonna freeze these tracks and flatten them again really quick. Alright, so the next thing we have here is actually a choir in Contact, and the only thing I have on it is an EQ, cutting off a lot of the mid-end and boosting the highs just a little bit. And all I did for this was instruments, go into choir, click choir again, go to the A vowel here, and then I took off all the reverb, and in this chord part I boosted it up to an octave just to make it sound a little bigger. And alone, it sounds like this. Yeah, and that's all there is to that section. The next one we have here is another Contact that I froze. Sounds like this. Playing the same chords as the super saw, and again, all I did was EQ it, cut off the low end, cut a little bit in the mid, and boost the highs. Yeah, that's literally it. You can go into Contact, click on the grand piano, and it's just that same default one. The last thing I have here is a massive patch. I believe this is just playing straight saws. Yeah, and again, EQ, cut off low end, cut a little bit in the mid, and boost the high. And then all there is to this patch is 3 oscillators, all saw waves, detuned a little bit each, and then the third oscillator is pitched up 12 semitones, or a whole octave. And then in the voicing tab, we boosted the unison to 5, and then added this pitch cutoff, boosted just a little bit because you don't need much, and then turned on the pan position and put it on full. So yeah, that's all there really is to the supersaw section. The next section we'll have a look at is the drop vocal sound, and alone sounds like this. Alright, Alright, so we'll look at the group as a whole because there's a lot going on in there. Alright, so first we have this beat repeat and a frequency shifter. And what those are doing is the beat repeat is activated at the first two notes here. And it changes speed from 16th notes to 48th notes. And at least I think it's 48th. I don't know, I've never seen anything that fast, but yeah, that's literally all the beat repeat does. And the frequency shifter just drops it down a little bit. Yeah, that's all that does. And then I'm also, again, panning the track really fast on this first note from right to left. And that's all the crazy glitchy effects that I have on it. Then I have my two compressors and my EQ. Yeah, that's it. So we'll get into how I do my vocal chops now. So the first one sounds like this alone. And all this is when I do vocal chops, I personally like to just take a sampler and pick out one note and kind of play it like it's a pluck, like a background pluck. And this vocal, I don't remember what it's from, but it's probably from like a random remix contest. And all I did was I found like a little phrase like this. But I know you'd rather get up and walk away. And I heard that A and I was like, that sounds fantastic, so I cut it out. Nope, not quite. And then, yeah, you can just play a little line. Yeah, so then I just threw a reverb on it, and the dry wet and the decay time both just increase at the end to kind of wash it out a little bit, because it's the end of the drop. Then the second vocal, literally the same section, same vocal chop. The only difference being that this is an octave lower and playing some different notes. And alone sounds like this. Yeah, nothing crazy. That's how I do most of my vocal chops when I'm making an original track or stuff like that. So, yeah, that is the drop vocal section. Alright guys, so the last two sections I wanted to have a look at here were just kind of like the background filler elements and the effects. And alone sound like this. Alright, so let's look at this group. First, the first thing we'll have a look at is these two serum sounds. And what these are is, hold on. All I did was I freeze and flattened the first supersaw sound, this serum, and just chopped out the beginning of each chord and added a few different effects on them. So the effects I added were frequency shifter, erosion to kind of add like some weird distortion, an auto filter, compressor, and an EQ. So first with the frequency shifter, in this specific one it goes down, so it sounds like this. And it also has the auto filter go down, so it kind of has this tape stop effect, which I like to use a lot. And in the second example, it's doing the opposite. It's actually building up, and all we have, gosh, go away. All we have is the auto filter to bring it back in, because we have this little wind-up sound, and I don't know, it sounded cool. And that alone sounds like this. Oop. Yeah, so that's all those two are, just cool little filler noises. Then right here, just have this reversed crash to kind of build up. Nothing crazy. I changed the fades a little bit so you just hear it at the very end though. Next thing I have is this little arpeggiator, and this is just a massive patch. EQ, threw on some auto pan, and also 2 sidechain compressors. Alone, it sounds like this. And as you can see, I go from, in the first half of the drop, it's 1 octave, and then I copy and pasted that same pattern and just pitched it up an octave, or changed the notes to an octave higher. And the actual patch, just a square wave, and then I took the third envelope here and added a little bit of weird pluckiness to it, because without it, it sounds like this. And I don't know, just thought it sounded cool when I pitched this up 12, and it's this again. And then also in the reverb, I threw this envelope on, so the reverb would actually stop once all the notes stop playing. And yeah, that's the arpeggiator. The next little section, as you can see, is just a vocal chop from Light Song Toes. Just took the acapella from it, and alone, it sounds like this. And yeah, so all I have on it is an auto filter, EQ, a little bit of panning, and 2 sidechains. And the part I sampled was this. To you. So just that U. And I just chopped out the ooh. And the last thing in this section is the wind-up toy sound, which is just this. EQ'd. Yeah. And where you can find samples like these, you can go on freesound.org. That's where I got this. And just Google like wind-up toy, or not Google, type in wind-up toy, and you'll get a lot of different options, and they're all for free. So yeah, that's what that is. And then lastly, last 2 effects, super basic, just reversed crash cymbals, same one from the beginning, and then an alarm clock that starts coming up, which is this. And yeah, so altogether, that's what made my track. So yeah, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Like, comment, subscribe, do whatever you want. Leave a comment down below if you want a different kind of genre, because I think I'm going to do dubstep next. But yeah, anyways, I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you guys next time.